Namastandaaya Sahatrumurte Sahatrapadaakshi Siddhartha Sunamani Purushaya Shashvati Sahasragodi Udarini Namaha Akashat Patisanto Imitagashitharam Sarvadiram Shvedakesham Prithvi Vasana Vasudeva Siddhartham Punatmem Sarvabhuta Nivasosi Vasudeva Ramustute Sarvabhuta Nivasosi Vasudeva Ramustute Sat Namaha Chidananda Bhagavan Jai. Someone asked me, are we going to have a translation? I said, we are not going to have a translation, huh? French. Is Mother Yuan here? Mother Yuan here? No.
But Francesca is great.
No.
You can have it.
No, not just. We are not going to have any translation. I want you to look at this statement, this sentence, for half a minute and try to close your eyes and try to just think silently what meaning it makes for you. Man and suffering. Do you see any necessary connection, or do you think these two terms to be independent and unrelated terms, or does any third idea come into your mind? When you take a good look at it, fix it in your mind and take it into your mental vision, close your eyes and just think about it. Hari Om. Now, you can take another look at it. And I'll tell you something, and in the light of the meaning of what I tell you, once again, close your eyes and start thinking about it and see if any new meaning comes out of it. That is, now what I am going to tell you is, if we regard the phenomenon of the human being, the human society, and human individuals and the human race, as a part and parcel of the sum totality of this manifestation in front of us, this phenomenal nature which we know to be the universe, then naturally it means being part and parcel of this great projection of what we see around us, as part and parcel of this phenomenon called universal nature. He should necessarily partake of whatever is the characteristic of phenomenal nature. If he is distinct and apart from it, naturally what happens there will not happen to him. But if you think he is part and parcel of phenomenal nature, naturally whatever takes place is also to be found in man and his nature, his own life. What do you see in phenomenal nature? Things come into being and things exist for a certain time. Things undergo various changes. Then they become subject to certain afflictions which gradually break down their wholeness and fullness and their energy and verve, and ultimately there starts a downward incline, downgrading of all things, and finally it ends up in dissolution and death. One of the meditations of Buddha is all things that manifest as a coming together of components, coming together of elements and then getting formed. They are bound once again to fall back apart and disintegrate back into their original elements. If there is integration, in course of time, disintegration has to take place. They cannot forever be what they were not before. And from this point of view, decay and dissolution is the normal ending of this cycle, or the completion of the cycle. If this is what we see in nature, and no one can deny it, everything is temporary in time, subject to change, subject to decay, subject to ultimate dissolution. Then man, being part and parcel of this phenomenon in nature, naturally he is also subject to this same cycle that we find in nature, this life cycle. Now close your eyes and see whether this life cycle appears to the phenomenon of man, who is part of this outer phenomenon of nature. Now, let us look at what the ancients observed regarding the phenomenon of man and what was it they saw in man's life. Are we now going to agree that man is a creature that is subject to a birth? Very happy, everyone rejoices, invitations go and birthday is celebrated, and then they keep an album of the baby. They take the weight once in 3 months maybe and record the weight and then take photographs, first month, second month, third month, fourth month, 12 months, then 1 year, first and birthday anniversary, the baby with the cake and the tiny one candle. And so, then more in height, more in weight, so the size of the cloth also changes, and so there is growth. And he is a creature of birth and growth, and then many changes take place. And wee little infant, 100% adorable. Sweet, 100% adorable. And it becomes 1 year, 2 years, and then slightly begins to show its nature. Mother and father, a little disturbed. Sometimes it may be stubborn. And sometimes it starts doing exactly what you don't want it to do. Baby, don't go near the fire. And it will go near the fire. And then you are disturbed. It's going to manifest its nature. Sometimes the nature is very sweet and good, means you are all happiness. But with the growth, certain changes take place and you become concerned. Maybe the baby is sleeping and father and mother are talking. The new trend baby is showing. We don't know how to manage it. Maybe you have to consult someone. Then all around, the change takes place in its nature, in its body, in its looking at things, in its reaction to things, and in its reaction to the mother and father. Now it slowly begins to start manifesting a little bit of the ego principle. Not a developed ego principle, but they begin to feel that this baby has got an individuality. It's not docile, not all children are at least. And then birth, growth, change. And this goes on, unhampered for some time. And afterwards, Gurudev had a famous story of 4 letters. Afterwards, what happens? A certain point of this process, growth and change is reached, then the nature becomes fixed. And afterwards, the personality levels off at a certain point and then continues to go on manifesting that personality for a long period. And then after that, you begin to see the inevitable process of slowly things begin to go into a down curve. And then it is that the person begins to think of taking this vitamins, that tonic and this mineral and wanting to boost up one's keep up the level as it was and doesn't want to let it go down. And so he starts taking interest in physical culture and goes to Indonesia and wants to take natural food, consults people, what's the best thing in such a case. And especially if one day while combing in the bathroom mirror he finds the white hair in his becomes quite alarmed what is happening to me, because I always thought of myself as a very young person, what's happening to me. Then people start worrying, maybe losing sleep also. But there is nothing that can halt this process. Nothing that can halt. Why? Precisely because man is part and parcel. As a phenomenon in this planet Earth, he is part and parcel of the whole of phenomenal nature, where this cycle is going on since dawn of creation. And ultimately, actual decaying of the whole biology begins to be felt. See? Hearing becomes affected, sight can become affected, teeth begin to fall off one by one, hair becomes grey, wrinkles begin to appear, and digestive processes and all that. There is a funny story of the guru of Swami Vivekananda. There is a very great devotee of the Divine Mother Kali, see, but also a rich man. And you know, fortunately or unfortunately, it is so. In India, for a long time, there used to be practice of sacrificing animals to please the deity. See? Once upon a time, it was rampant. And there has been no religion in the world where at one time or other sacrificing of animals was the order of the day, and much worse in certain pagan religions, sacrificing of human beings was also there. But then recently I saw a current issue of the Newsweek magazine,
Newsweek,
where the cover feature is the craze of modern society for comics. Craze of modern society for comics. They say comic doesn't have any this difference of age or state of mind. Young people enjoy it, they are crazy about it. Old people also snatch it from the youngster's hand, they want to and so old people also enjoy it. And especially this thing was reported because it has become a craze in Japan. There were Japanese comics, and they have given a spread of all the different types of comics that appear in practically about 10 languages. See, I mean, just to give you a just section of what's happening in this world of reading. See, God knows there must be in all the languages of the world, comics must be there. And I was horrified. And the comics are of various nature. They are not all, see, once upon a time when we were children, comics meant humorous, slapstick, Laurel and Hardy, Buster Keaton and whatnot, which we could laugh at. Woolsey, Wheeler and Woolsey, brother. We thought only in those terms, but no more. Comic can be, the name is there, but it has nothing to do with the content. It can be very deadly, serious, it can be adventure, it can be dangerous types of adventure. It can also be very sadistic, see, things also coming in there. And there in one of the comics, the cover picture of the comic was, it's somewhere in Africa. Some voodoo priest is there, and the whole place is filled with smoke and all that. And then an African girl in a peculiar dress, almost half naked, she is coming as though in a trance. And she is standing there in a trance. And I was seeing, and this man has got a huge knife raised like this priest who is standing opposite to her. I said, what is he doing? I thought perhaps he is going to give her as a sacrifice. Then I was horrified when I looked more at the picture. Between the priest and this girl, there is a raised platform-like thing. And on that platform, this girl, who is a mother, has just now kept her little baby. You see, then only I saw the baby's figure was seen there. And I saw the baby's figure because 2 feet were dangling. I said, what is that? I couldn't make it out. I just in my specs. It's a little child with her hands and feet. Very beautiful little bouncy child. She has just placed it, and she has placed it and stepped back. And she is like that. And this man is going to bring this knife down upon that side. It means human sacrifice. And for special intentions to be fulfilled, they give different kinds of sacrifice. Maybe this required a child sacrifice, another time a woman, another time to be a man, like that. And you know that in Old Testament, sacrificing a calf or a goat or something, this is lamb. This is always part of the old prehistoric Judaic ritual. And Kali is an aspect of Divine Mother, is a little dire aspect, bloody aspect, what you can say. And Sri Ramakrishna said there used to be this very great devotee of Kali, and he celebrated. Once in a year, 9 days, there is a worship of Divine Mother. There is an annual feast and day of holy worship. 9 continuous nights there is worship. Just like we have 1 day for Rama and Krishna, but in Kali, 9 Devi. And he said, someone came and mentioned about him. He is a very great devotee, worships Kali like anything, and every year it's a grand worship he organizes. For many years he's been doing it. And Ramakrishna said, yes, it is very good. I also know about him. He's a great devotee of Mother. Then the devotee said, but in those days, some years ago, many goats used to be sacrificed, Master. But nowadays, he has started doing that. Maybe he has got a change of heart and a conversion. Maybe he has come into the subject teachings. Nowadays, he only offers prasad, but he doesn't sacrifice anymore goats and then Ramakrishna laughed. Yes, that also I have heard. See? But you see, the reason is, in those days, he was young and strong and he had very good teeth and very good digestion. Now he has become old and neither has he got teeth nor can he digest well. Therefore, he has given up the practice. Offering is to Mother Kali. So you see, this process of decay affects your teeth, your digestion and everything, and so you can become pious also. Pious also. And ultimately it goes on into inevitable 2 lines in the obituary column of local newspaper. And afterwards, but nowadays, you see, we are all very canny, very intelligent. Sometimes it is a practice, citizens of Hollywood and Los Angeles, there of course burial grounds are fabulous, they are fantastic, and people go and do picnics there because there are vast estates of hundreds of acres and landscaped beautifully by expert designers and all that, full of flowers and full of lawns, beautiful lawns and nice trees and groves and incredible. It's like a beautiful park. The botanical gardens are parked with nice, well laid out parks and all that. And so they call them, they don't call them burial grounds or cemeteries anymore. Park, they call it park. Memorial park. And then places for putting you for ultimate rest there is already paid for and reserved, booked in advance, even when the person is alive. And so he gets a certain certificate and a receipt and a ticket, and so already he puts it in his will. This is my ticket. When I am dead, my body will lie in such and such a plot number so and so. My ticket is in the bank vault. So already they make reservation for the last resting place, and they want the best even at that. They go and look at it and then afterwards select, this is where I want to be. And sometimes it's a very loving couple, they will have 2 plots already paid for and booked. And this is the circle that ends there. So much so, when human body is afflicted with all sorts of diseases, and some of them are curable, some of them are incurable, and once you are subject to an incurable disease, then afterwards you are on the way out, and the lawyer tells you better make your will and provide for the survivors. And you know what they call this type of disease? When it reaches a point of no return, you know what they call this disease?
Terminal.
They call it terminal disease. They call it terminal disease. It will end only in the termination of life. And shall I tell you something interesting? One biologist, modern biologist, he is living now. I can give you his name. He has come out with this statement, after all, human life itself is a terminal disease. It makes sense. Because when you are born, what are you starting to do? You are starting to go towards terminal. So ultimately it is a steady march from the day of your birth. It is a steady march towards the grave. So life itself, in the ultimate analysis, is a prolonged terminal disease, which terminates in what? Termination. So it is predetermined. You have to man is born to die. Gita says that also. And they say, they have made studies, they say, we normally think that this process of moving towards the exit point maybe starts at 50 or 55 or 60. Biologists now, modern biologists say no. Even when an individual physically begins to approach adolescence, already changes start taking place within the biology of that person, where processes that were at a high point rate, they already start slowing down. Many processes which were in the fullness of vigor and energy at birth and go on increasing, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, 14 years, then they start leveling off, and then they begin to gradually lessen. And they say this is the beginning of the end. They have given specific processes within the body, and they say all these things commence their decay already when the person reaches adolescent age, and then they become more acute and get added on by an overall such process. But parts of it already start as young as the adolescent period, and therefore this is the pattern of man's life cycle, commencing in a birth and concluding in a death, and going through a process of growth, change, disease, decay, and ultimate. Now, within this two terminals, within this period, and the duration of the period no one knows, within this period, what are the experiences that the human individual is made to undergo? Human individual, what are the experiences that he is made to undergo? So let us bypass the middle phenomenon. Let us only mention his birth and death. So it is a creature of birth and death. And between birth and inevitable death, what does he undergo? Now, we have to get this clear that whatever is being communicated is upon the basis and the background of the Vedic knowledge of man, universe, and this world. It is something that we have attained from that ancient, timeless wisdom of the Vedas, which we have as the wisdom and teachings of the Upanishads, and the wisdom and the teachings of the other scriptures that try to expound the subtle truths of the Upanishads. For example, Bhagavad Gita is one of the most prominent of the books. And so, the scriptures of that Indian way of life, called the Vedic way of life, is the source for us. And so, whatever we are saying, we are trying to saying it on the basis and in the light of those teachings, which were based not upon speculation, inquiry and speculation, logic and reasoning, based upon actual transcendental experience of those great sages who recorded it in the Upanishads. And so, they have told us two things about this world, this universe in which man is a part. They have told us that man in this universe is subject to the play of they are cosmic qualities, that manifest as various things, inert, dynamic and harmonious. This is one thing about the universe, man in this universe. Three gunas. And they are, I don't need to tell you because you are all people who have background of the study of yoga and knowledge of Indian philosophy. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Tamas gives a certain type of experience, and Rajas brings about a certain type of experience, and Sattva gives a different type of experience. Broadly speaking, Tamas is that which is of darkness and inertia. Rajas is that which is of a mixed nature, mainly characterized by dynamism. And Sattva is that of light, which means it is something that tries to correct the products of ignorance. Light means knowledge. Product of light and purity and mostly harmony. Three gunas: Tamas, Rajas and Sattva. And also, our ancients have discovered that one could posit two principles. One is that which is within the scope of man's perception and man's grasp, mentally and intellectually. And all this is the contents of here. It is what is constituted by what we see here, what we find here, in which we are. And all this which we find here is limited in time and space. See, it is a dimension completely governed by time and space. And therefore all man's perception or knowledge is therefore relative. in time and space. And whatever you can think of, whatever you can know by the mental processes of reflection, and whatever you can know by reasoning powers of your intellect, mind and intellect, they are all experiences that come under the limited framework of time and space. Everything is relative there. Nothing is absolute. Automatically, a thing is known. It is a process that takes place automatically. A thing is known only in terms of its being different from something else and it being similar to something else. It is always compare and contrast, takes place instantaneously. And it is relative knowledge. If you say, heavens, the weather is very cold. No, not so cold as some place else in north. But if you are coming from south, you say, yes, it is colder than Marseille or colder than Nice or something. But if you are coming from even 500 kilometers north, it's not cold. So you are talking about the same identical place, in identical weather. But some will refer to it as not so cold, and some will refer to it as yes, cold, because you are coming from a hotter place, and they are coming from a still colder place. And then the second factor is the absolute, that goes beyond time and space, does not form a subject of the processes of the thinking mind and the reasoning intellect, something completely beyond. And they perceive this, and they said everything that is manifest comes under the category of related the dimension, relative dimension. Therefore, here in this universe, limited, bound by time and space, in this universe, everything is in a state of duality. There is nothing absolute here, everything is relative, everything is in a state of duality, it is subject to what is known as dvandva. There are three gunas, and the other thing they call dvandva. So between birth and death, he goes through like and dislike, I'm not keeping the pattern. Loss and gain, gain and loss, you can say. Anyway, does not matter. Success and failure. You see, he's always swinging in between the pairs of opposites, pleasure and pain, love and hate, like and dislike, loss and gain, success and failure, fulfillment and disappointment, joy and sorrow, prosperity and adversity, and whatnot, and etc., 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 etc. To go beyond the mood. And health and ill health. And sometimes he gets a very good name, sometimes everyone starts scandalizing. Anything can happen. One has no stability of experience, is constantly swinging between the pairs of opposites. Sometimes elation, sometimes depression. And throughout life, this is what we see. And so sometimes he is laughing and sometimes he is weeping. Sometimes he is laughing and sometimes he is weeping. And so there is no uniform experience of pleasure or joy to man on earth, because by the very constitution of earth, constitution of this world, everything here comes in pairs. And we are very happy when sun comes out bright in a clear blue sky, and after a little time there is typical to us, within half an hour you have got the wind blows, and even as the sun is shining, thunder begins to rumble, and then soon sky is overcast, then the wind starts, and then chill rain. And so they found that it is impossible to have any uniform, stable experience in this life. If you want pleasure, you have to suffer pain. If you want happiness, misery is tagged on to it. See, if you want joy, sorrow is tagged on to it. And so, this is called Dvandva, the world of Dvandva. And so, the voice of the ancient ones said, we also pondered this phenomenon. We found it is unsatisfactory. What is this whole life going through life, sometimes laughing, sometimes weeping, sometimes very, very happy because your desires have been fulfilled, sometimes making yourself miserable because you have been disappointed, frustrated. This is no good. But then, this is all that the world has got to give. It cannot give anything better. Alright? If in our supermarket this is the only thing available, can we not try to go shopping elsewhere? So they decided to find whether there was any elsewhere. See? And they were very serious about it. They took this quest very seriously. Because for them it was a matter of life and death, solving the riddle of life. And so they left off all other pursuits, gave up all other distractions, and plunged themselves wholly and solely into this quest. They dedicated themselves to this quest. And whatever they went through, we were fortunate. We have to congratulate ourselves, because out of their dedicated quest to find the solution to this problem of man's miserable earth life, they did discover another dimension, another realm, another state of being where all dualities were transcended. They came into a state of being where there was absolute bliss and bliss alone. Absolute bliss, unalloyed bliss, unmixed with anything of a contrary nature, and total, and inexhaustible. Not that after some time it will be finished. So you have to be, even when you are enjoying it, you have to be in anxiety. When it is finished, what will I do? So you don't have any anxiety. It is absolute, unalloyed, unmixed, undiluted joy, supreme bliss, param ananda, and which was total and perfect, and it was permanent and eternal, and which was inexhaustible. That is what the form. Infinite, eternal, and perfect bliss. And it is interesting for us to know that it is not only the ancient Vedic sages of India in the Upanishadic age that discovered this wonderful state of experience which once got never leaves you. See, once got it never leaves you. Simultaneously, of course much later maybe, they were not the monopolists, they were not the only unique set of people, sector of humanity that went into this experience. We have also records of thousands of years ago, ancient Chinese men of wisdom had attained to that state of absolute tranquility, where they were untouched by the joys and sorrows of this phenomenal world, always in a state of absolute peace and joy, fullness and satisfaction, wanting nothing, caring for nothing, asking for nothing, and ready to give if someone asks. What is the secret of this wonderful state? All right, you want to come? No, come. And simultaneously, there have been ancient men of perfect enlightenment in Egypt, bygone Egypt, maybe 5,000 years ago, even earlier. Similarly also, much later, there have been such enlightened and illumined men of wisdom in ancient Greece, in the set of ancient Greece. And their wisdom teachings part of the wealth of the human race even today. It has been a common, they have all added to the common global human heritage, this wisdom treasures. And later on, many mystics within the Christian setup. I do not know much about the mystical or people of the Judaic religion. I have not made a study. Though later Judaism has produced many Hasidic masters who took to the spiritual line and adopted the spiritual life of practice. They also practice some kind of yoga only, because yoga is anything that puts you into contact with the universal soul. It is a generic name for any type of spiritual practice that you engage in, which puts you into direct living relationship, spiritual relationship with the cosmic being. And so we have the teachings of this Hasidic, the sages and men of wisdom in the Judaic tradition. But we know for certain that within the medieval and near pre-medieval Christian world, Christian period, there have been several great people who rose to this state of experience where the whole life became suffused with an indescribable joy, which nothing could take it away from them. And they are the Christian mystics. And many of them were not accepted by and they produced great teachings also. Many of them were not accepted by the Orthodox Church, Vatican. I shouldn't use the word Orthodox because it's got a different meaning on it. By the church, established church. So, though the general people were attracted towards them, and they did have a following, but the church came down very heavily and forbade them to hobnob with these people, and they were not regarded as authentic Christians. They were called the heretics. See, and in all the European countries, many have been produced who belong to this type of illumined mystics. Swedenborg, Emanuel Swedenborg, and then Meister Eckhart, and Jacob Home of Bavaria, and several others, and some within the Orthodox Christian tradition, because before this experience came to them, they had already entered into the Roman Catholic order. Some of them were nuns, some of them were monks. St. John of the Cross, Teresa of Avila of Portugal. And there were some who were Kamsa. For example, Teresa of Lisieux. She was a girl who began to have a great love for Jesus even when she was a little girl and too young to enter the convent or become a nun. But then she grew in this mystical life and had wondrous experiences. So ultimately she was able to persuade her father to allow her to enter a convent. And he saw that this child was extraordinary. It seems is my daughter, but it's not my child. Seems to be endowed by God's grace. And so ultimately he came to a decision. That was a great day of joy to Saint Therese. When she was hardly, I think, 15 or 16, walking in the back garden of their house. She went on telling her father, "You must how she is. So he got persuaded. He said yes, and that spot is still there in the back garden. It's kept there. And so many of these mystics, they did have that. And one of the best known of these mystics, who in spite of the severest austerities and the most painful condition of the physical body, was always in a state of ecstatic joy. That was the saint who came 800 years ago in Italy, in Assisi, Saint Francis of Assisi. And now he called it the perfect joy. Perfect joy. And the Upanishad sages called it Param Ananda. Param Ananda. And Saint Francis demonstrated that this perfect joy could coexist with the most miserable of physical conditions. He denied himself proper food, proper clothing, was shivering in cold in winter and went without shoes and bareheaded in the sun and underwent all the inclemencies of life around him, harsh life, no proper food, no pleasures, and yet he was always in a state of ecstasy inward. And this is the great declaration that they have said, there is beyond this relative plane of consciousness and relative plane of relative experiences, where you have to swing between the two pairs of opposites, which I have tried. It's only just a glimpse of it. The whole life is made of pair of opposites. And sometimes love itself can turn itself into hate. See? And it is some peculiar phenomenon. And therefore, in spite of man being compelled to live, move and have his physical and psychological being in this plane of duality and relativity, there is for him the ability and an access into another plane which is absolute, non-dual, where the experience is perfect. Perfect, unalloyed bliss, beyond all sorrow, pain and suffering, beyond all misery, beyond all duality, a plane of absolute bliss that is total, perfect, permanent, unalloyed and inexhaustible. Now, that is the great contribution of the Indian spiritual culture, background in spiritual India to world humanity in the context of our consideration of man and suffering. Man and suffering. So much. Yes, remove it here. Because this, the triune or triplets of the three gunas, they are not static. They go on cycling. And in nature, in everywhere, in nature and within the human being, within the human body, within the human mind, they sattva, rajas, tamas keep on cycling. And so when tamas is predominant, you get a certain type of experience which is not very pleasant. And when rajas is predominant, you get another type of experience. It is only when sattva predominates, you are in a state of serenity and joy. You are at peace with yourself and peace with the world. You are in harmony with everything around you, and therefore one of the objectives of yoga is to try to always see that tamas, which is the dire nature, is gradually lessened, and ultimately eliminated. If possible, eliminated or minimized to the barest minimum, kept there just to the barest minimum. And rajas is a peculiar quality. It's a very valuable quality. It could become an asset to you, it would also become a liability to you. It depends upon how you relate yourself to it. If you are overcome by it, it becomes a liability to you. If you are able to overcome it and control it and direct it, it can become a great asset to you. So rajas is a neutral and amoral force which is at your disposal. Whether you use it or misuse it, it depends upon you. Therefore, the necessity of understanding rajas and getting a good grasp of its role and its place in our nature, in our life. And so, rajas is not to be merely lessened, but it has to be sublimated, purified, refined. Then it becomes a subtle higher force which is very valuable for you. And it is through such controlled and refined rajas that you can increase sattva. You will not be able to increase sattva by any other means. Through rajas you can have access to sattva. You will not be able to chuck and control and eradicate or eliminate tamas by sattva. Sattva has no direct power over tamas, but rajas has got power over tamas. So it is contact with both the lower one as well as the higher one. Therefore, rajas is a very valuable asset to us, and it is not only the objective, it is also part and parcel of the inner mechanics of yoga, as asana, as pranayam, as these mudras and bandhas. It is part and parcel of the inner mechanics of yoga to gradually bring about a purification of the rajas and a refinement of the rajas, so that rajas becomes a valuable ally to you in trying to gradually increase your sattva. And when sattva comes to supremely prevail in your being, your whole being is filled with light, then you are in a state of better understanding, your perceptions are clear, your intellect functions properly, and then you move towards higher light and joy and harmony and peace. So this thing that has been studied is a valuable insight given to us through the ancient science of yoga as well as Vedanta. Yoga also has got a philosophy beyond it. Yoga is a science and a practical system, but at the same time it is based upon a certain philosophy, and that philosophy behind yoga is very, very closely similar to Vedanta, the other philosophy. Sankhya and yoga are very, very close. Sankhya yoga is almost identical with slight differences. And in this state of knowledge, we are in a position now to see how we can relate ourselves with this question of sorrow. Sorrow, painful experience, is part of life. It is inevitable because it is present in nature. Birth is sorrow and painful. And growing pains, as you say, it's growth and change. And disease is painful, man has to suffer. And ultimate decay is most painful. When he sees what is happening to him, but cannot do anything about it. There is an inevitability which shocks him. But he is outraged, but he cannot do anything, he has to submit. And ultimate dissolution is a great sorrow if during that period you have become attached to many things here. If attachment has grown, then it brings about, it's a prolific source of all sorrow and all suffering. This is the picture of man's life on earth. And in the process of the evolution of the knowledge of man, life, universe, and the ultimate absolute reality, they came across this valuable discovery that it is not the things that happen to man, things that happen to the human individual, that are the direct and ultimate causes of suffering or sorrow or pain, but it is man's own attitude towards what is happening and the human being's reaction to what is happening. An identical experience can happen to two persons. One may completely break down, one may remain absolutely unaffected. How come? That person has brought about a change within his mind. And so he is able to face sorrow, face this identical experience and not be bothered about it. Or at least keep one's inner stability and remain unaffected and not being overcome by the experience. What are the ingredients that go to make up this new attitude, this changed attitude, which makes one master of the situation, not slave to the situation? What are the ingredients? The ingredients spring from one of the basic fundamental discoveries of the ancient Indian thought. And this discovery was suffering is present in human life. Suffering is there, it's inevitable. And it was discovered by one of the earliest of philosophers, and he was the great enlightened one, Buddha, Gautama Buddha. And his coming into the spiritual life and his quest after the riddle of man's life and the riddle of man's suffering and his ultimate finding of a solution is itself something which contains in it certain eye-opener. Now you see, we think our happiness depends upon things this universe has got to offer to us. What is our idea of happiness? If you want to have a good time, you must have plenty of money, nice things to wear, wonderful jewelry, maybe nice dress, and many motor cars, maybe a private aeroplane, and a palatial mansion with all the comforts, and the affluent huge gardens and swimming pool and double tennis court and whatnot. That is our idea of happiness. If all these can be had, I will be happy. If all this cannot be had, I will be weepy. We will not be happy unless we have things this world has to offer to us. If we are right, then everyone who has all these things, plenty of these things, they should be very, very happy. How come this saying in the English language, uneasy lies the head that wears a crown? A king or an emperor has got everything at his fingertips. He can command everything, which an ordinary commoner cannot have. The whole lifetime he strives also. Back-breaking toil, he cannot have it. But the king has only to say yes, immediately is before him, and yet he spends sleepless nights. Because the visitor also is accompanied with many types of fears. But coming to the specific case, if what the world has to offer to us, plenty, prosperity, riches, affluence, money, power, prestige, command over things. If that is to make one happy, Buddha, the great enlightened teacher, was not always Buddha. When he started his quest, he was a prince of a royal race named Siddhartha. This king was ruling a monarch, Shuddhodana, and he was Prince Siddhartha. And due to some reason which we are not going to know, the father saw to it that this young prince, as he was growing from boyhood, was kept surrounded by everything that was desirable, everything that was pleasant, everything that would give happiness, everything that one could enjoy. The acme of happiness and joy and pleasurable experiences, sports and games and good companions and music and dance and beautiful gardens, everything that one could desire, surround him with such things that he sees nothing that is unpleasant, nothing that is likely to cause him any disturbance and distraction should ever cross his vision. See that he is surrounded by everything that is only blessed, beautiful, auspicious, pure, pleasant and all that. So, he was a master, he was a king, he commanded, and it was done. So he was surrounded in palatial gardens, and everything that was there was full of beauty, and he did not know what sorrow was, he did not know what trouble was, he did not know anything that was unpleasant. He never dreamt there was anything that is unpleasant or bad or he was brought up that way. And that prince, having everything that any human being on earth could desire, decides at a certain time, when he is in the prime of youth, he has wedded to a beautiful princess, and they both have got a beautiful baby boy. See? Seventh heaven of desire. Nothing to desire anymore. And in that state, he comes to a stern resolve. Enough of all these things. Enough of all these things. He is deeply moved because he has discovered that this is not all there is in this world. There is another world outside of my palace and my gardens and my beautiful surroundings, perfect surroundings. There is a world where people are suffering. The human being is suffering. He is suffering pain, he is suffering disease, he is suffering misery, and he is suffering sorrow. Because he had a little glimpse of old age, disease, some man suffering, and all family members around him trying to comfort him, someone trying to give him a little drink of water, someone trying to fan him, and despair. What is this? Disease. What means disease here? This young prince had never seen disease. This is something which all bodies are subject to. All bodies? Yes. My body also? Yes. That means I, Prince Siddhartha, I also must undergo this type of torment, this experience I am seeing just now. Yes. It is inevitable for man born of man. And so he already begins to perceive. Because for a wise person, one little experience is enough. He knows it. This is the world outside. It is a world of pain and death. It is a world of sorrow and bereavement. It is a world of disease and suffering. And he sees an old man. He questions and finds out this is a state, an age and a stage in physical life. Everyone has to undergo one day or other. So then his whole idea of this artificial surroundings that has been created by his father, the king, whole idea changes. Oh, this is only a pseudo thing that's just put here before me, just deceiving. But behind it, there is a world, there is like a ball of fire, blazing with misery, sorrow, suffering, pain. And so, I cannot rest upon my pillow and sleep restfully, sleep peacefully, when I know that brother human beings are in travail. They are suffering. The hell torment is there in this world. He said, the Buddha sees the whole world to be like a white hot iron ball, a sphere of iron that has been heated, red hot, white hot. So it is not only blazing hot on the surface, even more blazing hot inside. See? So he said, no, there is no happiness in this world. I must find a way out of happiness, way out of sorrow and suffering, not for himself. He had never experienced sorrow and suffering. Way out of sorrow and suffering for those who are in that the world of sorrow and suffering is a veil of tears. So, for the sake of others, he just at one stroke gave away everything and giving the lie to the general delusion of man that things of this world can give us happiness. You know, these are all and he gave them up and went forth a wander, a lone wander, in quest of the way out of sorrow and suffering so that he can proclaim it to the human world. Very interesting. At the same time, in the same period, some other part of India, another prince of a royal family, he also suddenly decided that this life is unsatisfactory. It is a mixture of pain and pleasure. It is a mixture of joy and sorrow. It is a mixture of happiness and unhappiness. This is no good. Everything is elusive. One moment you are having happiness, next moment you can plunge into sorrow. No good. I reject it. I want to find out something that once attained will never change. Will always give satisfaction. The peace which is itself joy. And so he went forth to the same quest. And the philosophy, the realizations, the wisdom that he got, and then the message that he proclaimed is what is today known as Jainism. He is the prophet of modern Jain religion. He is called Mahavira, and he was a contemporary of Buddha, and he was more or less of the same age, maybe a couple of years older to Buddha. But they both renounced in youth and all the royal comforts of palatial life full of enjoyment. Which gives us the light that really the world and the objects outside cannot give us true happiness. And Buddha went through a severe period of seeking and struggling and practicing and great period of intense austerities, physical suffering, penance and but out of it ultimately came knowledge, came wisdom, ultimately came illumination. He became enlightened. All questions were answered, all doubts disappeared. He came to a state of absolute light, full clarity of perception. Nothing was hidden from him. Past, present and future merged into an eternity where everything was present here and now. So he was able to read the whole riddle of the universe like one's palm of one's hand. And then he proclaimed 4 great truths. Now, the 4 great truths comprise the basis of Buddha's message to the whole world. And the first truth is the existence of pain. Sorrow exists, suffering exists. That is what he discovered. The existence of suffering in this universe. The second great truth that he discovered was, because without the second discovery, the first discovery was meaningless, third and fourth also had no meaning. How come? Why this suffering takes place? What is the cause? Unless you discover the cause, you cannot give a solution. He probed, he deeply pondered this phenomenon of suffering, and he wanted to know whence arises suffering. And so he discovered the cause of suffering, that was the second important truth he proclaimed. And if he had only proclaimed these a state of perpetual misery. Suffering is inevitable. We know the past. We are helpless. What can we do? He said, no. The third great truth he declared was one of the most important things for mankind. He says, this suffering is not necessarily unending. The third great truth was, there is a possibility of cessation of suffering. You can put an end to this sorrow. Suffering can come to an end. Cessation of suffering. And the fourth great truth he proclaimed was, if sorrow can be brought to an end, how? What are the means? What are the methods? What is the practical way by which you can put an end to sorrow, go beyond it, and become established in a state of peace that passeth understanding? A supreme peace, supreme joy, supreme fullness. That is the fourth truth. And this fourth truth is called the Noble Eightfold Path. Just like the Eightfold Yoga, system of Patanjali, he also proclaimed the Noble Eightfold Path. So the first truth of the presence, existence of suffering for man, long before Buddha had come, the ancient seers and sages of the Vedic Upanishadic era, they had discovered and they had given it to us in a particular analytical way. He just made statement of facts. They had given it to us in an analytical way. They said, every individual soul born into this phenomenal world is born into a world where exist three types of afflictions. That there exist three types of afflictions. See, affliction is something that is insufferable. One wants to get rid of it quickly. And therefore, one thing whose agony human being cannot bear here, various physical experience, one, you can bear thirst for some time, hunger for some time, pain for some time. One thing which you just cannot bear, can you tell me what it is? Fire. If you get burnt, instinctively you see, the moment hand touches fire, of all painful experiences, the experience of the pain of fire is the most acute and most unbearable. Instantaneously, but you recoil from it and immediately it becomes unbearable. You want to put it in immediately. Fire. See? Cold you can somehow, all other experiences put together, the experience of being burned by fire is one of the most painful, most intense, most acute and most terrible. And so they name these afflictions fire. Tapa means fiery ordeals. And so they proclaimed, they declared that when an individual soul is born into this world, then he is born into a world which is a plane where three afflictions prevail. What are the three afflictions? The Sanskrit name for it is now, not to be confused or mistaken for the third of the five niyamas that constitute the second stage of Patanjali's yoga. The first stage of Patanjali's yoga is yama, the practice or taking up of five vows. The second is niyama, which is the observance of five practices every day in your day-to-day living. And the third of these five niyamas is tapas. The tapas. It is voluntarily taken up or voluntarily taken austerity or penance, where you are subject to certain painful experience, but you want to undertake it because you know the gains that accrue out of it. Therefore, this is willy-nilly. This is something that is imposed upon every human individual, not only human individual, but two of them, even experienced by all forms of living beings. Every fish, insect, reptile, bird, beast, animal, all of them are subject to two of these three afflictions. Man's uniqueness is his greatest liability. So it is tapa traya. Traya means triple, threefold. So threefold afflictions of human being. And the threefold afflictions are one whose origin is in the hands of God. He can do nothing about it. Adi means the origin. Adi Devika. Adi Devika. The other one, which is visited upon man through various other forms of life, animal life, plant life, insect life, and microscopic forms of life, bacteria, microbes, germs. So they are the origin. Other forms of creatures, and visible and invisible. Bhutas means any born creature. See? Bhuta, any born creature. Bhautika, adjectival form of bhuta. That is pertaining to other creatures. Then the third, having its origin from, can you tell origin from whom? Wait. Adi Atmika. I'm thinking it for that. See, Adi Atmika, or when it comes together, it becomes Adhyatmika. Origin in self. See, Atma is self. Every individual soul born into this world is subject to threefold afflictions. One affliction having its origin in a positive factor beyond our control. It is due to, call it divine will or call it it's the gods. We brought about by forces or factors beyond our ken. Secondly, caused by other forms of life amidst whom we have to live. Thirdly, that is the most important thing. Adhyatmika means, please don't mistake it for spiritual. You can sometimes mix it up that way because the word, Sanskrit word for spiritual is Adhyatmika. But here, the word Atma is used in a higher sense, that which pertains to the Supreme Spirit, pertains to a cosmic spirit, or pertains to the spiritual part of your being. But both in Sanskrit as well as in other languages, there is a word which is used to denote yourself. That is self. that is the overself or the great self, cosmic self, so it is always written or printed with a capital S or all caps. S-E-L-F, all caps means the supreme self or the divine self, the cosmic self, universal self. But don't be selfish. When you say, we mean the little self to which St. Francis refers in the last line of his simple prayer, for it is in dying to the self that one attains to everlasting life. So this little self is a very, very undesirable factor in our life. It is the root cause of all afflictions, suffering, fights and quarrels and conflicts. And so the third type of affliction is self-generated. It has its origin in your own self. Now, when you use the word self, when one takes one's life, the life by one's own self, they call it suicide. And in Sanskrit it is called hatya, means killing. And for suicide, the peculiar Sanskrit word is atmahatya, killing oneself. Killing oneself. And when you speak of, you give respect to others. When you speak of giving respect to yourself, you say self-respect. My dear fellow, have some self-respect. Don't do such mean things. Don't you have some self-respect? So in Sanskrit, the word is atma-sanman. And you all know the word self-confidence. You must have self-confidence. In Sanskrit, the word is atma-vishwas. So the word atman with a small a is used to refer to this little self, and by and large, the greatest affliction, the greatest sorrow of man is caused by one's own self. And you know the very well known adage, the mind that is the cause of bondage as well as liberation. Manameva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayo. To tell you briefly what are these three kinds of afflictions, Adi Daivika, Adi Bhautika, Adhyatmika. Adi Daivika is something which no one can do anything about, and all creatures, including man, suffers. It is universal. What is it? Terrible heat of summer, torrid heat of summer, unbearable heat. Terrible cold in winter. And you don't know, you don't realize. Fortunate you are in one sense that you are in the affluent West. But in the Far East, especially in India, every year hundreds of people, poverty-stricken people, die of cold in the winter. January, February, frost comes and they have not enough clothing, not enough shelter. So old and children, they die of cold. And hundreds of people in summer, they suddenly die of heat stroke and sunstroke, dehydration, and immediately death. It takes place every year. And then devastating floods. Suddenly torrential heavy rains and rivers go into floods and then break the banks and devastate the countryside. Whole villages are taken away. Men, cattle, everything swept away. And tidal waves for those who live near the coast. And earthquake. Volcano. It is not history. Even very recently, somewhere in South America, there was a terrible volcanic eruption and the whole city was devastated. So, famine, pestilence, earthquake, tidal wave, volcano, floods, and many other types of such afflictions about which we cannot do anything. And every year this thing hits man, and in one part of the world the thousands are carried away, thousands die. And also in cases, fire, sudden outbreak of fire. See? and then big devastating fire sometimes ravages the countryside, and sometimes if it is a city, multi-story building, hundreds times before the firemen can come and rescue them. And then suddenly pestilence, epidemics. These are the first type of affliction over which man has no control, he will only to bow down. Second type of affliction by other creatures, as I told you. In the countryside only people know. Poisonous snakes and scorpions and diseases carried by mosquitoes like filaria and malaria and other things, and diseases carried by bugs like kala azar and yellow fever and teste fly, and you get encephalitis and so many other kinds of diseases. They are all borne by visible insects outside us, and they take a heavy toll of human life. And then invisible microbes, cholera, plague, and so many other diseases, intestinal diseases, by which man dies a slow death, amoebic dysentery, hepatitis, viral hepatitis, and so many other things. AIDS. Now, of course, AIDS, and many other, you have only to read a medical dictionary, or you have to visit some hospitals. You know, no one is spared. Infants, young people, young athletes, youth, prime of youth, strong, old, everyone. But these are nothing, these are chicken feed compared to the torment a human being undergoes right from young age until the old age due to one's own interior. What is the condition prerequisite to happiness? There is one condition which is indispensable for happiness, and that is peace of mind. It is only in a state of peace, serene peace, that you can really experience happiness or joy. Where there is no peace, there cannot be joy. And therefore, anything that disturbs the peace of mind destroys your happiness. Anger, passion, carnal passion, too much desire, hatred, envy, jealousy, the desire to revenge. It burns up a person. And self-created sorrow due to too much of attachment. And some woman suddenly hears a news over the radio. At 11:15 this forenoon, such and such an office building suddenly caught fire due to a short circuit, and the whole building burned out. People are trapped. Firefighters are saying, "This woman is a collapse. Oh God, oh God. My son is working there, and she doesn't know what to do, and she is frantic." And then, after a couple of minutes, a radio correction comes. We are sorry, a little correction. It is not building number 338, but it was 348. Now she doesn't mind other people being roasted there. She is now out of sorrow because her son is not there. Okay? So this long attachment in one moment can cause great agony, and if your son or boy or daughter is out of danger, you don't care what happens. It is other people's sorrow. And so this is self-created, and people are in a constant state of torment due to sorrow that arises not due to the will of God or the celestials, anger of the celestials, not due to any other creatures around you outside. It is nothing to do with the outside world. You stew in your own soup. See? That is man's self-created world, made miserable by one's own. And it is here that all philosophy comes to your rescue. And yoga also comes to your rescue. Wisdom comes to your rescue. But it is philosophy and yoga that brings wisdom to you. better understanding of the real state of the life, happiness and misery. And therefore, this subjective sorrow created for oneself, subjective suffering created for oneself, sometimes for no reason whatsoever. Surely through imagination you can make yourself miserable. See? Many mothers do that. See? When their children have gone to school and they are little late coming, the mother doesn't know what's happened. My God, maybe he's caught in a traffic accident, maybe he's now in the hospital. Any moment she expects a ring to come from her. And this is the declaration of Tapatraya in another way. And with this I conclude for today. Because what is the main cause of human suffering? Go right to the root. Main cause of human suffering and affliction. Who can tell me? No. That is only a causative factor. No. Let me tell you, yes. You're right.
The imagination that you are the actor. That you do it and...
No. That means already you are there. Because you are there. That is right.
Okay.
The main cause of human suffering is birth. If you have not taken birth, nothing can touch you, nothing can affect you. What does it matter what's happening anywhere else, anywhere? But so far as you are concerned, you are perfect. So the main cause of all human misery, suffering and everything, you have to tell this to Mr. Gerard, please, is birth. Because, I will tell you, they say, you cannot have a headache without a head. You have to have a head first, then you can have a headache. So with everything. So you cannot have a human suffering unless there has already been a human birth and you have come into this human world. So the ancients said, suffering, pain and death is not the problem of man really. The problem of man really is rebirth. Because he comes into this arena again. If you could find some means of attaining to a state of existence where there is no more necessity of being born into this world of pain and death, they have already transcended pain and death. So they said that death is not the thing to be feared or to be countered. It is rebirth that you have to fear, and rebirth you have to try to put a stop to. That is a problem of man, not death. Therefore, they showed a means of liberating yourself from rebirth. When you are liberated from rebirth, you are liberated from death also. And you are liberated from all the concomitant evils that follow birth. So birth is painful, old age is painful, getting mixed up in this tangle or net of terrestrial life, that is painful. This is from Shankara's point of view, and the other Tapatraya, pre-Shankara, it is from point of view of the Vedic wisdom. All individual souls born into this world are subject to the threefold afflictions. Afflictions having their origin in powers beyond our control, afflictions having their origin from other forms of life which are there to stay, afflictions originating from your own being. Other two you cannot control, but the afflictions that arise out of your own being, that you can do something about. And that is what yoga tells you to do something about in an effective and a successful manner. See? That is why yoga is the science of liberation from self-created sorrows, pains and sufferings. We meet again on Friday afternoon for a similar this makes it either a source of sorrow or not a source of sorrow. It is you who endow sorrow with the quality of suffering. Otherwise, even when the sorrow comes, it may lose its sting. It may not be able to give you suffering. See? That is something that is borne out by certain anecdotes that are not completely unreal. And next time we meet on Friday afternoon, I will try to share with you some thoughts on suffering which has been shared by many other people at another meeting. Because we had a spiritual retreat in a monastery near ours one weekend. And it started on Thursday night, and then it went to Friday, Saturday, until Sunday midday. Then Sunday afternoon till 5 o'clock. And 6 o'clock. I take it with a grain of humor. During that period, I told them that I am coming to Zinal, and the theme for Zinal, this 15th anniversary, is man and suffering. And you are very much human beings, you are also gone to this world of suffering. You try to share with me what your thoughts on suffering are. Quite a few of them have shared, and in that you have got some valuable pointers, and therefore we will make that also a part of Friday afternoon. And today we conclude about a woman who was always laughing, always crying, sometimes laughing. And people were puzzled. What is the matter? Has she got some problem? Why she's laughing? She's either laughing or she's crying, weeping. So they became curious, and then some set of persons made bold to go and ask him, what is the matter? Have you got any problem? Why we find you either laughing or you're weeping. She said, no, it is not my problem. It is a problem of people at large. I am happy, so I am nothing to weep about. But I see so many people miserable, so many people full of sorrow, full of suffering, and therefore that makes me weep for them. Then they say, why are you laughing? If that makes you weep, I can understand the reason for your weeping, but why are you laughing? Oh, I am laughing at the thought that all this misery and suffering and sorrow and all that is so unnecessary. And if they wanted it, they can snap out of it like this. And they are not doing it. Because their real nature is the Buddha nature. And Buddha nature is completely transcending all sorrow and suffering. It's full of peace, full of joy. And their real nature is Buddha nature. And instead of directing their mind to this important truth and dwelling upon it and realizing their Buddha nature, they are directing all their mind to little petty things, and they are got caught in this net of suffering. And when I see this, I am made to laugh. How foolish of man. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnana Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamedavashyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The visual presentation of some of these truths in the form of these sketches, we owe with great thanks to Shiva Kekans, brother of Narayana, who is the secretary of the Yoga Vedanta Alst, center in Alst, branch of Divine Study. And there are one or two more interesting things, sketches here, which now it is today the introductory was too much, and therefore we keep it for Friday afternoon. And also some of the sharings very graciously done by other brothers and sisters.
Have the meet also Thursday.
Oh yes, Thursday. birthday happens to be 8th of September. And 8th of September is the birthday of beloved Master Swami Chidananda. And so we intend having a little evening to observe and celebrate his birthday on Thursday evening at 5 o'clock p.m. 5 p.m. It will be a 2 hours gathering at 5 o'clock. The hall is to be given to us by the management, and so they have told us that they will announce it
The day before. The evening before.
Evening before. Maybe they even put it on the notice board, I don't know. They may put it on the notice board for Thursday morning.
There is a notice board for programs on demand. It is just near the entrance of the room A.
Tell it in French also.
So, il y a la salle A. À côté, il y a un tableau et c'est programme sur demande. Et c'est là qu'il faut regarder.
Each day's program is
Yes.
displayed there. Morning
There are two kinds of programs, the
yeah.
official programs and then the programs on demand.
So, official programs, which is part of the European Union's schedule for the day, and the programs that have been made up because of the demand for such a program. So programs on demand or programs on request, they are displayed in a separate board, official programs on the board. Thank you for your presence, thank you for your patient hearing. God bless you. Maybe you should do your board and cross. Okay, where is the bag?
I have it.
Oh yeah. Thank you very much. You are in Hotel Pinto or what?